places? That happened? Are you kidding me? Good morning to you. Good Wednesday morning from Milwaukee. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports, and this is Daily Shot of Pirates. It comes your way bright and early every weekday if you're into football and or hockey. I also offer daily shots of Steelers and Penguins. I hope you'll take the time to check out as well. Pirates 12, Brewers 2. 5 more home runs, highlighted by a Joey Bart grand slam. Brian Reynolds, Jack Sawinski, Josh Palacios, Rowdy Tellez all went deep. All did so in a really loud way, too. I would say maybe other than Reynolds, the other 4 were just, that kind of sounds, I was joking with one of the longtime Milwaukee beat writers, kind of sounds we're used to hearing from the Brewers in this particular matchup, in this particular setting. That's now 15 home runs in the last 5 games. It's only the 6th time in the Pirates' 143-year franchise history they've hit that many in that tight a time span. But, you know, it goes a little bit beyond that. And please, if you're new to the program, pull up a chair, because the guy who's about to say this has been blasting absolutely everybody, even remotely associated with this offense, for the better part of a few months now. But there's, well, boy, am I going to hate myself for saying this. Because you know what's going to happen? They're going to get shut out tonight, and you're going to be all, look at you. You started talking about the offense as if it wasn't, some hellspawn creature. I see things in this offense, and from spending the day yesterday with the team and talking almost entirely to offensive players, I hear things from them that lend some, you can tell I'm having a hard time finishing this sentence, right? That lend some semblance of a fraction of an iota of credibility to the idea that, well, I can't finish it. I did ask Reynolds after the game, this team hit better than it's hit to date overall? This is capable. Is there more offense in here?
Yeah, I mean, we got a lot of talented guys. We've showed it, in splits here and there. So we just got to try to be a little more consistent and build off today, build off the big game last series. So
it's as much as you're ever going to get from B-Ray. That's the equivalent of him standing on the top of Mount Washington and shouting to the masses. They see, the players do, an offense that's latent as opposed to one that just flat out stinks. They look around the room, and Nick Gonzalez was particularly compelling in our conversation on this subject, and they see talent. They see players who've not achieved what they should have achieved to date. And nobody's going to get into why. Everybody in baseball sees hitting as individualized. But if you do this exercise with me and you work your way around the diamond, you can see where, position by position, at least something conceptual can be had here. Behind the plate, Bart. He's only got 79 at-bats. Arrived late. Got banged up when he first came, but he's now got close to an 800 OPS. He's got 5 home runs in 79 at-bats. This was now, by the way, the second one that was a slam. Maybe he's the catcher. Maybe Henry Davis figures it out or whatever, but Bart is here now, and Bart can hit. We've seen it with our own eyes. Small sample, but we've seen it. First base, Tellez. I don't need to go on about that. What he's done over the past, I'd say 4 to 6 weeks, has been a lot more than just kind of leveling off. He's now on a flat out surge. He just is. Even his outs look good. Gonzalez, to me, has taken an iron grip on second base, which not one of us forecast. And I've shared that from myself to him. I didn't predict it either. I didn't see it coming. All I saw from him were strikeouts for years, all the way down through the system. He's taken it over. He's the second baseman. 2 for 4 with a walk last night. And he just keeps going. And to me, the beginning of the end of the awful offense was when he showed up. Shortstop's O'Neal Cruz. Third base is Brian Hayes. I don't know about Hayes. I don't know what to say. I just don't. All I know is that I thought he was dead in the water a year ago, and he ended up being the Pirates' very best hitter in the second half of 2023. So maybe that'll happen again. Maybe it won't. Reynolds is Reynolds. The other 2 outfield spots, this is where the conversation continues to be interesting, because Jack Suwinski has now had 10 games, not coincidentally, I'm here to tell you, coming right after it sure seemed like he was going to be the one to go down for Palacios. He hit his way into staying. And he told me after the game last night that in addition to the home run, which obviously he really boomed, he also had an RBI single that he smashed through the right side, but he had an out also where he really hammered the ball toward the second baseman. And he kind of liked that at bat better than any other, because it was another example in his mind of a new level swing, a really even, balanced swing that he's been working on, that he thinks is bringing these good results of late. Palacios, I mean, I don't know what you say about this kid. All he does is big things every once in a while, and he does enough of those big things that you don't even notice an 0 for 5 or an 0 for 4 on another night. So is the outfield solved? No, obviously not. But you have one different guy in Palacios and one real obvious underachiever in Suwinski, and maybe you have something there. Do you see what I'm doing here? Do you see? And there's a reason for it. It's not to be getting anybody's hopes up or anything, because they also just had 3 2-run outputs over the past few days, 1 against St. Louis, 2 against New York. And they might go right back to that, to repeat myself, tonight. But this is the closest I've seen to even a path towards something that's decent. And remember, that's all this team needs out of this offense, is to be decent. Just be average, maybe even a little bit below average, and contention is real. When we come back, J1Q. This portion of Daily Shot of Pirates is brought to you by our friends at North Shore Tavern, that's directly across Federal Street from PNC Park. It's home of Steak on a Stone, an eating experience, underscoring the word experience. The steak is brought to you partially cooked on an 800-degree stone, and you do the rest. It's a ton of fun, it's a great meal, and it's a baseball atmosphere like no other in Pittsburgh. North Shore Tavern, right across Federal Street from PNC Park. Today's J1Q comes from Landon, who says, DK, between this game and the blowout of the Mets last Friday, what's changed with these surges? Is it the coaching? Is it guys just finding their groove? With what's happened to this offense of late, are the Pirates even still looking to add a bat? Too soon to tell, I know, but I love what I'm seeing. I can imagine that everyone's been enjoying it, Landon. I got to say, one thing about this game that I just covered here last night is that, to me, was the Pirates' peak performance of 2024. I know people got all stoked about what happened last Friday because it was at home, and it was fireworks and Paul Skeens and whatever, but this was a far superior opponent, the Brewers. They're one of the best teams in baseball. This was a really good starting pitcher they were going against. And Colin Ray entered the game 8-2, 3.34 ERA, had just thrown 7 scoreless innings in Denver of all places. And this was not close. This was not compelling in any way. That's really, really impressive for this team collectively. I'm going to try to answer your question as much as that's possible within, I'll keep saying this, a small sample size, because it is a small sample size. That's not me trying to downplay what they're doing. It's just trying to keep it in the proper perspective. I hear these players talking about individual adjustments that have been made. That doesn't mean that the hitting coaches, and specifically Andy Haynes, aren't involved. That doesn't mean that their dad isn't involved or whoever it is that's fixing somebody else. It was Rowdy Tellez talking about that. That's actually fairly common in baseball. But when they talk about these things, and again, the guys that I spoke with yesterday spent extra time with all of the outfielders, really, but especially Jack Sawinski and Josh Palacios, they were going on about individualized things that they'd overcome and pushed through. And it was Tellez who brought up the everybody doing this together component. You'll hear players use terms like everybody's running to the bat rack now. Everybody wants a crack. Well, that's usually a reference to the other pitcher being bad, but this other pitcher was definitely not bad. They just hit him, and they hit him hard, and they chased him, and then they chased the next guy, and then they chased the next guy. If you're asking, and I think you are, Landon, to an extent, if there's been some universal magic wand or change in approach or anything like that, whether it's from Haynes or Derek Shelton or even higher up, the answer to that is no, with one exception. And that is that at the beginning of June, Shelton put into play, Shelton did this, a directive toward a more aggressive approach at the plate. He got as tired as all the rest of us did of watching these guys step into the box with an 0-2 count. He wanted to make sure that his hitters felt like it was the right thing to do to go in there and get after that first pitch, or at the very least, be ready to hit, is a term he uses a lot with the first pitch. Funny story, it's semi-related. I'm going to share it with you, but this was after the game last night. Do you remember early on how Brian Reynolds got really freaked out by Tom Hanahan, the home plate umpire, calling that one pitch a strike when it was like 6 inches low and 6 inches outside? Okay. After that, Tellez gets rung up. Now, his was borderline. So I'm just hanging out in Shelton's office after the post-game press conference or whatever, and I made a remark to him about how I think he changed the way the umpire was calling the entire game by how he was flipping out from the railing. Shelton told me he thought he was going to get tossed. Well, he didn't. Reynolds didn't get tossed. Tellez didn't get tossed, and Rowdy got really nasty in the box. Well, part of the reasoning for all this was that Christian Yelich got really hosed. You remember that one? Yeah, that one. Way outside. Like it was in Lake Michigan or something. And the Pirates realized that as soon as Hanahan started hearing it from the Milwaukee dugout, okay, now they're all mad at me. Something's off here. And he seemed to straighten himself out, and there was no more real controversy after that. Anyway, that had nothing to do with your question. Just thought of it right now. I appreciate the question. I appreciate everybody listening to Daily Shot of Pirates. We're going to do another one of these tomorrow, after which the Pirates are going to score so many runs tonight just to make me look good on this episode, right?